Introduction. Apollo is one of the Olympian immortals and is one of the most important gods in classical Greek and Roman mythology and religion. In Greek mythology, Apollo is known as the god of shooting, music and dance, truth and prophecy, cure of diseases, god of the sun and light, poetry, etc. Apollo is one of the most complex Greek gods. His father was Zeus, his mother was Leto, and the twin brother of Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, was one of the goddesses of Olympus. He is one of the most beautiful gods and the ideal form of an athletic and beautiful young man. Apollo can be considered the most Greek god among other Greek gods. As the god of Delphi, Apollo is the god of prophecy, and the temple of Delphi belongs to him. Apollo is the god of help who drives away the evil spirit, hence he was given the title of Deviator of Evil. Apollo Delphi is the patron of sailors, newcomers, and the protector of fugitives and asylum seekers. Medicines and therapy have been attributed to him. Although Apollo is not the god of medicine, and the god of medicine is actually his son Asclepius. Apollo is the god who protected people from epidemics, although he had the ability to create and spread plague and disease with his poisoned arrows. Also, Apollo and his twin sister Artemis are considered to be the originators of archery. Apollo was born on the island of Delos. He is considered one of the Asian gods who went to Greece from Asia Minor or Anatolia, but in principle he is not an Aryan god, but the Greeks mixed it so much that he became one of the most important gods of Olympus. He was originally the god of light and brightness, and that is why he was called Phoebus. He was also the god of prosperity and construction and the seaming of the bow. But above all, he was the god of music and art, and that is why he is famous. He has had many romances, mostly with bitter endings. It is said that he had many enemies since his birth, including his uncle Poseidon. Birth of Apollo. Leto, the mother of Apollo, who was considered one of the goddesses of Olympus, went through all the lands when she was pregnant to find a place to give birth, but because she was very jealous of Hera, none of the parts of the earth were willing to accept her because they were afraid of Hera's anger. Leto passed through the mountains and islands of Greece and Crete until he reached Rhenia, which was opposite Delos. Enraged by this unkindness of land and sea, Leto turned to Delos and, as has been recounted, the island accepted him. In return for this acceptance, the goddess of Olympus gave him a lot of wealth and entrusted him with the protection of the special temple of his son Apollo. Delos was threatened that if he accepted Leto, he would be surrounded by coral animals and sea seals, and then buried in the depths of the black waters, but the island did not break its pact with Leto. Leto endured 9 days and 9 nights of painful suffering, and at first none of the goddesses of Olympus helped him, because Hera had threatened them, but finally Dione, the other wife of Zeus, Aphrodite's mother, Rhea, Themis, and Amphitrite, came to help Leto. Hera, with the help of Leto, created a rain of gold around Delos so that the events of that island would not be hidden from her daughter Eileithyia, but Iris went to Eileithyia on behalf of the Olympus family and informed her. The last person who came to Leto's aid was Athena, who suggested that in order to please Hera so that Leto would give birth to her children in peace, a gift should be given to Hera. As a result, a 9-cubit-long necklace made of gold and amber by Iris. It was made and given to Hera as a gift, and Hera accepted it and allowed her daughter Eileithyia to appear at Leto's bedside. Leto was born next to the date palm tree, which he tightly hugs, first Artemis and then Apollo. Apollo's family. Apollo is one of the most famous lords of all kinds in Greece. Apollo is the son of Zeus and Leto and was born on the small island of Delos. He was one of the Olympian gods and the twin brother of Artemis. Perhaps only Ares, the god of war, and Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, are more famous than the god of the past. For this reason, from the first day, the god of art and taste became the hero of countless stories and legends and became the source of inspiration for works of art in the old and new times. Unlike other children, Apollon was not breastfed, because Themis, the beloved of Zeus, put the elixir of the gods, which is called nectar, on his lips and made him not need to eat milk. According to the myth, Apollo Hera, the jealous wife of Zeus, sent Python to prevent Leto from giving birth to a baby. Python was a giant viper that emerged from the mud left over from the great storm. Leto fled to the island of Delos, where he wished to be allowed to bear a child, which Hera opposed. Here Artemis and Apollo were born after 9 days of labor. The island of Delos was consecrated to Apollo. Apollo's roots. Apollo is considered to be one of the Asian gods who went to Greece from Asia Minor or from Arabia, or one of the northern gods of Europe. They know that Greek sailors brought its worship to Greece, but in any case, in terms of origin, he is not a Greek god, nor is he an Aryan god, but the Greeks have mixed it so much that it has become the main gods of Olympus. Name of Apollo. Apollo was originally the god of light and brightness, that's why he was called Phoebus, which means bright. Homer mentions the existence of Apollo in his poems. At Delphi, there. Phoebus is sitting in the middle of the center of the earth and all over the world, singing an eternal song. It predicts everything that is and will be. In Greek mythology, the sun at the beginning of the god Helios, the sun, later turned into a sphere that was guided by Apollo, that is, there is no darkness in it. He is also known as the god of fruits and fields, all of which are dependent on the sunlight. Apollo is considered to be the embodiment of the power of the sun and the moon, as well as singing and art. He is also called the god of seeming Kaman, the god who throws his arrows to faraway places. Of keeping and protecting the sheep. In a story, Apollo is also mentioned as the wolf of God. He is also known as the god of construction and the god of prosperity. He was also a purifying god and could cleanse those who have contaminated their hands with the blood of their fellows and relatives. He is also known as the god of truth and truth. Phoebus, from the bed of your truth / and from your home in the heart of the world / you speak to men / by the command of Zeus. Falsehood has no way here / and no shadow to darken the truth / Zeus has honored Apollo with eternal truths / light for all listen to his words with firm faith. But above all, Apollo was the god of music, and a large part of his fame is related to this aspect. It is said that he made the Olympian gods happy by playing his golden harp. With the power of his music, Apollo could subjugate everyone to his will and capture all the beautiful women, his lovers. A god like Apollo, who was both beautiful and young, should naturally be loved by women as well. He had many love affairs, but the women who were his favorite were persistent and rebellious in front of him, and in almost all cases, their affairs ended tragically. Melia, the sea nymph, Charigia, another nymph, and Akacalis, the demigoddess, were among the mistresses who gave themselves easily to him, but Daphne, the beautiful nymph of the Yen River, was not tamed by him. Eventually, Apollo got bored and wanted to resort to force, but Daphne found out and ran away. Apollo followed him, but just at that moment, when he wanted to hug him, the daughter of Gaia, the goddess of the earth, who is one of the oldest gods of Greek mythology and one of the most respected among them, asked him to bring her, and suddenly the earth opened its mouth and took her in its mouth and placed her in place. She became the bush of love from the green earth, which Apollo always loved in memory of the beautiful fairy that was not hunted. Siren was also a hunting fairy. Apollo, watching him fight with a lion, was involuntarily fascinated by its beauty. He put her on his golden chariot and took him with him to Libya, Africa, and he had a son named Ariste. Not only the gods, but also some human beings rebelled against him. One of them was Kostali. Once, Apollo and Hermes, two gods of the first degree of Olympus, who were half-brothers, fell in love with two girls named Akacalis and Chion. Chion fathered a son by Apollo and a son by Hermes, and Bagra lightly mocked Artemis, daughter of the god of the gods, who refused to marry and bear children. Artemis was enraged and pierced his heart with an arrow. Akacalis had two sons from Apollo, who, fearing their father, took them to a distant forest and Apollo gave them to the wolves. The love story of Apollo and Caronus is very famous and sad. Caronus, the daughter of King Lapis, when she found out that she was pregnant by Apollo, married Eches, a man from Arcadia. But a raven, commissioned by Apollo to take care of cronies, informed the gods of Olympus about their illicit affair. Apollo, out of anger, gave the crow feather to Black, and Caronus and Eches to Death, and gave the body to his sister Artemis, and Artemis put the bodies in the fire. Before cronies burned, Apollo took out his child from his womb, which is Asclepius, and became the god of medicine. He had a son named Sextus, from Tyria. Apart from these, Apollo has also loved boys several times. He turned the Coparius into a cypress tree. He fell in love with Hyacinthus once. Enemies of Apollo. It has been written that Apollo had stubborn enemies from birth. Even when Leto was pregnant, he had enemies who wanted to destroy her and her child. Tydeus was one of the Zeans who attacked Leto, and then the twins, Apollo and Artemis. When Titus attacked Leto, the goddess of Olympus went to Delphi, but according to Pindar, it was Artemis who killed the rapist Gene with her spears, but Apollonius believes that Apollon killed the rapist giant. While discussing this, Hyginini says that Zeus took it down. In most mythological histories, Python has been considered Apollo's #1 enemy. Some mythological accounts say that Apollo killed the dragon, Python, only 4 days after his birth. This means that Apollo went to Delphi and killed the dragon, who was the child of the earth, next to the fountain or crypt of the altar of that temple. In some narrations, it is said that Apollo faced 2 dragons, one male and the other female, next to the altar of Delphi temple, but Apollo's dragon was female and was called Delphine. Another male dragon is called Typhon. Regarding Apollo's fight with the Delphic dragon, Pierre Germel believes that Peyton was sometimes called Delphine, and as mentioned, he was killed by Apollo when he was sent by Hera to chase and kill Leto. Grimel adds that Apollo, after killing Python, organized a funeral for him and created the patheques for Python and erected a tripod in the temple of Delphi. His appearance and interests. Although Apollo, she had different personalities, but she is embodied in a single form, young and beautiful, with a strong and proportionate body, broad chest. There was no trace of hair on his face. Cave tree and crow and dolphin are his favorite. Subscribe for more.